In this next video, I'm going to show you how to actually create your figure ground assignment. All right, so what we are talking about is positive and negative space, or figure ground, or what is in the front, what is in the back, and how those things can affect the way your artwork looks and behaves. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in, Control plus to zoom in on my first artboard. This is the one I'm going to focus on. You are only using your initials, your first initial, the first initial of your first name and the first initial of your last name. So I'm just going to type out my first initial, and I'm going to, I can increase my font a little bit so I can make it bigger so I can see what's going on. I'm going to go through my font choices. We are only using the fonts that are available on our computer right now. So this is going to challenge you with a limited color palette and limited font styles and a limited size of your artboard. Okay, so your colors can only be black and white. So it's going to challenge you a little bit. Some of you are going to hate that process. All right, so what I'm doing is I am just stretching out my letter to fit. Normally I say hold the shift key when you stretch out your letters to constrain the size. For this case, it's okay to go ahead and stretch it and resize it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is add my letter T. So I'm going to click off of my artboard just because I don't want it to get lost in my letter W, and I'm just going to resize it. So you have some options here. You can change the font for your second initial, or you can leave it the same. And then I'm just going to change the color. Okay, now what I'm going to do is place it somewhere on my artboard so you can see that it's there, but you don't want it to be too conspicuous, or maybe you do. So what if I went like this? So what is in the front, what is in the back? Obviously we know that the T is in the front, we know that W is in the back. Okay, all right, so there's my first initial. That's it, it's that simple. So I want you to mess around with your initials and the placement of them. I want you to explore the typography, the fonts that are on your computer, and mess around with the placement, mess around with, the size, all of that. So take up as much of your artboard as you possibly can with your letters. Okay, you can also change the color of your background on your artboard. So if I wanted my, let me move this up. If I wanted my artboard to be black, the background, I would make this a 3" by 3" square. Hit OK, make sure it's black, and just cover up my artboard. I'm going to go to my layer panel and lock it in place. And then I can move this guy over right here, and I'm going to change the color of my letter, so W. And then I have to obviously bring it to the front because I drew out my letter before I drew out my square. My letter is the first thing on my my layer panel. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, arrange, bring to front, and that will bring my letter to the front. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do just what I did for the first one. And a lot of times if you kind of stretch out your letter and put it beyond the borders of your artboard, you can't quite make out what letter it is, but your brain will tell you what it is. So it's kind of a cool little trick. So just repeat the process. Again, you can change the text, you could leave it the same. It's going to be up to you and where you want to put it. You can change the color, change the style. All right, so we're going to pretend like I'm all done with my artboards, and then you are going to do a couple things. The first thing is you are going to save your Illustrator file in a new folder, save as, create a new folder in your Student U drive, and you're going to name it Figure Ground. So I already have one, so I'm going to actually delete this one. So I have a Figure Ground folder right here, so I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to save it. So hit save. Then I'm going to, when all of my artboards are complete, I'm going to export it. So go to export, export as. You're going to make sure to put it in your Student U drive in the Figure Ground folder. Up here you can check. Make sure it's named properly, make sure it's a JPEG file, And then, this is very important, you're going to click Use Artboards, and that will make sure to save each individual artboard all by themselves. All right, and you should have 6 individual artboards just like this. Okay, and then go ahead and turn it in. Keep Illustrator open and call me over, and I will help you send it to the printer from Illustrator.